Okay, we're ready to start. We'll call to order the October 4th meeting of the St. Johns County Cultural Resources Review Board. Mercedes will read the opening statement that we hear at every meeting, and then we'll proceed.
This is a properly noticed public hearing held in concurrence with requirements of Florida law. The public will be given an opportunity to comment on topics relevant to the board's area of jurisdiction, and the public will be given an opportunity to offer comments at a designated time during the hearing. Any member of the public desiring to speak must indicate so by completing a speaker card, which is available, handed out, and any additional speakers may be heard only at the discretion of the chairman. Speaker cards may be turned into staff. The public shall speak at a time during the meeting on each item and for a length of time as designated by the chairman, which shall be 3 minutes. Speakers should identify themselves, who they represent, and then state their address for the record. Speakers may offer sworn testimony. If they do not, the fact the testimony is not sworn may be considered by the board in determining the weight or truthfulness of the testimony. If a person decides to appeal any decision made with respect to any matter considered at the hearing, such person will need a record of the proceedings and may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which record includes the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. Any physical or documentary evidence presented during the hearing, such as diagrams, charts, photographs, or written statements, will be retained by staff as part of the record. The record will then be available for other board or the county in any review of appeal relating to the item. Board members are reminded that at the beginning of each item that they should state whether they had any communication with the applicant or any other person regarding the substance of the item outside the formal hearing of the board. If such communication has occurred, the board should then identify the persons involved and the material content of the communication. Civility clause. We will be respectful of one another even when we disagree. We will direct all comments to the issues. We will avoid personal attacks.
Okay, thank you, Mercedes. And the next item on our agenda is opportunity for public comment, and that's public comment on matters that are not on the agenda, not related to a specific agenda item. So who is here to speak? Sally? Oh, we have to, oh, you're going to read the, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just going to get my timer ready.
Don't start it yet.
No, I won't start it yet. Okay, first comment card is Jenny Wolf.
Is there an appropriate place to stand?
That's fine,
okay?
yeah.
All right. Hi, my name is Jenny Wolf, and I represent the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. I am currently the board chair of the Florida Trust that has been around for over 40 years. While I do work for the city, I want to make it evident in the record that I am here on my own personal time, and that can be fact-checked if needed. Our request here today is that the Cultural Resource Review Board make a decision that the Magic Beach Motel property is a significant cultural resource in accordance with Section 3.01.04 in Cultural Resources Protection and Management, which says that significant cultural resources may be designated by the county administrator, the CRRB, or by the Florida Division of Historic Resources. Resources listed on the National Register and those listed as county landmarks shall also be designated. So this implies that the CRRB, or rather states quite clearly that you have the authority to determine that the Magic Beach Motel is a significant cultural resource. There was a discussion of this many years ago by some previous staff members. It did get onto a CRRB agenda, at least going back to 2011 in the public records. There are email transcriptions of those conversations. I even have the staff assessment from that time period of the Magic Beach Motel that I will provide to you. And lastly, I'm going to read the letter from the board's CEO and president. Dear commissioners and board members, founded more than 40 years ago, the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation's first of many successes was collaborating with others to save an important piece of Florida's history, the old state capitol in Tallahassee. Today, the Florida Trust is asking the St. Johns County Commission and the CRRB to help save another piece of that irreplaceable history, the Magic Beach Hotel in Volano Beach. The Florida Trust for Historic Preservation is a statewide organization dedicated to protecting Florida's history and heritage. Florida Trust members understand the importance of economic development and balancing that development with community interests for the good of the entire county. The Florida Trust partners with Main Street communities and city and county governments and local nonprofit organizations. One of the most tangible demonstrations of that partnership is actively championing the awarding of millions of dollars in grants for preservation and interpretation of St. Johns County historic properties. On behalf of the Florida Trust Board of Directors and our membership, we thank you for the opportunity to provide this testimony and comment regarding the historical significance of Magic Beach Motel as an individual property in the village of Volano Beach. Opened in 1951 as the Blue Ocean Motel, this long-standing motel is an important component in the Volano Beach Town Center. Goals and objectives have been established in the County Comprehensive Plan for Volano Beach Town Center since 1999 and the 2003 designation of Volano Beach Main Street. If I may ask the chair to allow me to continue reading this letter, an extension of time.
How much more time is it?
I would say 2 minutes. This is from a statewide preservation organization.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr.
2
Chair.
minutes, add 2 minutes.
As such, the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation respectfully and strongly requests that the Board of County Commissioners uphold those goals and objectives by not approving the demolition of the Magic Beach Motel. Today, a development proposal that includes a demolition of the 70-year-old Magic Beach Motel runs in direct contrast to the principles set forth in these plans. Furthermore, more than $10 million in taxpayer funds have been invested in Volano Beach, which includes new infrastructure and new construction based on the visual characteristics of the authentic, historic landscape of Volano Beach Main Street area. Part of the County Commission's responsibility is to ensure current development proposals do not jeopardize the results of those expenditures and maintain stewardship over those public dollars. I would like to share an alternate analysis to the assessment from the consultant retained by the developer who proposes demolition of the Magic Beach Motel. The analysis was provided from regional historic preservation professionals who have not been financially compensated nor will benefit materially by the preservation of the Magic Beach Motel. Over the past decade, St. Johns County Cultural Resource staff has recommended the Magic Beach Motel would qualify as a local landmark, as I already indicated, and there's information in the record related to that. And you also have a current staff recommendation from your staff person, Mercedes Harold. Also, the Florida Trust is asking the review board to affirm both staff determinations that Magic Beach is a significant cultural resource. The county's public documents related to Volano Beach identify the Magic Beach as a primary character-defining element of the area. Furthermore, the Magic Beach was recognized when the current property owners received an award from the Florida Department of State for outstanding Florida Main Street rehabilitation. The property is actively and economically used, contributes to the vitality of the mix of uses in the Volano Beach area, and recognized as a landmark to citizens, taxpayers, and visitors familiar with the building. I received my time. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Can I take your documents, please?
Yes. And I will give you the letter at the end. Yes.
So Sally O'Hara is the next on our list, sorry.
Thank you.
Just going in order.
I'm Sally O'Hara. I'm the former executive director of Volano Beach Main Street. I resigned in February. I am a current state Florida Downtown Association director, and we're working on education of community groups, educating cultural resource boards about main streets, about growth management, about CRA. So I'm working on a white paper for that. That concurrently dovetails with the initiatives with Magic Beach. I don't know if there is enough exchange of information among the various boards with the decision makers to determine the demolition efforts. Over the years, I've identified 50 Volano, 155 Volano, 160 Volano, 165, 176, 180, 200, and 245 Volano as potential landmark designations in the Volano Town Center. And over time, in the last couple of decades, systematically, properties have been assembled and demolished. Magic Beach is the latest in that demise. Unfortunately, it's sad because the complexion of the community is going to go south. It's going to be another Miami Beach south or Daytona Beach. And in representing and involving myself in a number of community discussions with the North Beach Community Alliance, as well as the Florida Downtown Association, and other interested citizens in the area, they're not interested in creating more hotels, especially on this scale. And it would seem that the BOCC's approval of the comp scale amendment combining Corona with 2806, bordering 80 Volano, of which some people had vested financial interest in that property, is inappropriate to now roll it up into demolishing Magic Beach with a new sale pending. It is my position that I would like to educate people further about the relationships and how things work.
Thank you. Any other comments, public comments?
Yes, Leslie Keys.
Leslie Keys, 207 Mission Club Circle, if you need that.
Thank you.
I was a state employee assigned here to Northeast Florida, North Central Florida from 1997 till 2002. And I've worked with Volano Beach Main Street to set all of that up a very long time ago, as some of you will probably remember, lots of hats. I'm going to continue with Jenny's letter because I'm also past president of Florida Trust and a trustee emeritus. So, while Magic Beach Motel has changed over time, as do lodging establishments regularly, much of the significant original materials have been restored. These changes to the property do not detract from its importance. The Magic Beach Motel illustrates a time and place through authentic architectural and interior design reflective of the national trend in highway motels and locally for the use of a mid-century modern design reminiscent of the Art Deco period. The additional story to the detached structure does not detract from the one-story Magic Beach Motel, or even after a devastating fire, careful attention was paid to restore the motel's authenticity. The state of Florida's record on individual historic properties, the Florida Master Site File, includes a written record from 2 evaluations of the Magic Beach Motel's historic character and significance, one in 2001 and one in 2010. Both survey forms indicate a windshield level survey was performed. In the latter, the architectural historian noted the alterations included replacement of the original doors and windows. That same reviewer stated that the Magic Beach Motel retained important characteristics known in the historic preservation field as integrity of setting, location, association, and feeling. 10 years later, particularly in light of the water-related storms and disasters that Northeast Florida has experienced, alteration of windows and doors does not eliminate a property from being considered for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. In fact, for local landmark designation, the county's ordinance says the property must meet only 3 of the 7 criteria of integrity modeled in the National Register. In 2010, survey of another professional resource states it does meet at least 3 of those criteria. For St. Johns County local landmark designation, a property must meet at least 1 of the 9 criteria of significance, some of which overlap the criteria of the National Register of Historic Places. It's important to it's important to emphasize that preservation takes place at the local level. The Federal National Register listing and other benchmarks document properties at a level that enables local communities to include historic resources in planning and economic development. The St. Johns County Boards of County Commissioners establish landmark criteria unique to its jurisdiction. Of the 9 criteria, the Florida Trust contends that the Magic Beach Motel qualifies for at least 5 of those 9 criteria. The building is associated with the development of North Beach during a period of highway motel area of the nation and represents character-defining features existing today with architectural integrity amongst a Main Street designation for buildings of a similar character. We support the evaluation undertaken by both the St. Johns County staff persons that have come to the same conclusion. Respectfully, the Florida Trust requests that Magic Beach Motel be preserved and redeveloped as an attractive component of new development. The Florida Trust supports sensitive new development that integrates historic resources and sound planning and infrastructure for a cohesive whole. Volano Beach is economically healthier thanks to the efforts of St. Johns County to use the area's historic authenticity to drive new development and provide incentives for the rehabilitation of older buildings. Do I get an extra minute? Don't you want to
Mr.
hear the rest of this letter?
Do you, is it another minute or two or
I
what?
think it's a minute.
Okay.
I'll keep
Yes,
talking fast.
go ahead.
Okay. A recent study performed by a nationally distinguished economic firm found that St. Augustine's heritage assets contributed $2.9 billion toward the economy. Further, the study noted there is a correlation between the loss of historic resources and a reduction in tourism dollars. Volano Beach is an attractive and unique place to visit and live. The principles set forth in the town center recognize this and provide measures to protect existing historic resources and inspire new development. Tax credits at the local and national level can be leveraged to help rehabilitate and preserve these character-defining resources. A transfer of development rights program was established to recognize that new development at a larger scale would pressure the demolition of the one-story character of historic Volano to preserve those resources. Florida Main Street programs thrive only in areas where there's a balance of economic and historic preservation activity because historic resources drive economic development. Allowing demolition of the Magic Beach Motel, one of the widely recognized icons of the area, will signal a lack of concern for historic authenticity or regard for the county's goals within the Volano Beach Town Center zoning district, as well as the misuse of more than $10 million in public funds. Again, the Florida Trust requests Magic Beach Motel to be preserved. Okay. How's that?
Is there another?
Yeah, one more. But just
Oh,
after.
okay, after, thank you.
Okay,
This is
this is from,
Keys
oh,
material.
Florida Trust, yes. Okay, Robin Moore.
So you're saying it would be,
Just right after.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for letting us speak today. My name's Robin Moore, and full disclosure, I was the Historic Resources Coordinator for St. Johns County for about a little over a decade prior to Mercedes and Crystal. And I was actually the author of the Transfer of Density Rights Historic Incentives Program for Volano, and so have seen the numbers of people that worked towards the effort of trying to maintain Volano's authenticity, their historic properties. That includes residents, it includes professionals in historic preservation fields, and many others who've given of their time, as well as the number of taxpayer dollars that have gone into programs like Florida Main Street and waterfront communities that helped Volano resurface from where they were in the 80s and 90s. The point being, tremendous amount of effort, thought, and care have been put into the plans, the master plan for Volano, which at its heart included the goal of maintaining the historic authenticity of the place. Magic Beach, of course, has always been considered by anybody who lives around here an anchor, an absolute anchor of this main street. And I guess, really ultimately, I know this is a historic board, so we're speaking on historic matters. I mean, there's a lot that the proposal would go against in the documents of Volano, as well as the Town Beach overlay and all this other stuff. But with regards to the historic resources, I would request that the CRRB officially recognize by vote, the historical significance of Volano Beach, of Magic Beach Hotel. I do believe legally it's been already recognized significantly by staff, and as far as the county code goes, that is something that is there. However, it would add a great deal of support from the board that guides historic recommendations in St. Johns County to have a vote of belief that this property is historically significant. And perhaps investigate ways that the board can help support the preservation of Magic Beach as we move ahead in this county process. Application review. Thank you.
so that's it?
We have one letter that was, we were emailed 7 letters about, 8 total letters about the Volano Beach Town Center project, but only one of them was directed to the CRRB. So I will read that one. The others will be in the project materials for the North Coast Design Review Board meeting, because they will be reviewing the project October 13th to 14th. I'd have to double check
They'll
that.
be reviewing the proposed project.
Yes, which is the design of the future project.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair? and this may be able to be answered by staff, but does that include demolition of the Magic Beach Motel, that design review?
That's a good question. I don't know.
As far as I know, that the design review is just the design of the project, but I did not review the project. It was reviewed during maternity leave. So I don't know the parameters of that specific project that was submitted.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I should have had this out. Your 3 minutes is up.
Hey, I could have closed all this time.
It's not recorded.
I don't know if I could have done that.
Not the way you thought.
Sorry. So the following letter is from Georgia Katz, who was unavailable to make the meeting because she had other obligations, but she did request this letter be submitted to the CRRB. So I will give myself 3 minutes to read the letter. Dear Ms. Harold, this letter is written in support of the landmark designation of historical properties located within the Volano Beach Town Center, including most importantly the Magic Beach Hotel located at 50 Volano Road. This is also a request that the board please consider providing a letter of support to the North Coastal Design Review Board, NCDRB. Prior to the NCDRB meeting to be held on October 13th, acknowledging the historical and cultural importance of Magic Beach and encouraging the applicant to consider options to preserve this iconic building. As a first-generation Floridian, I have fond memories of being with my father doctor going on night house calls at the beach, sitting in the back seat and seeing these small mom-and-pop motels nestled in the palms with the amazing neon lights, artwork in the sky. It was really quite magical for a child. Memories of places are important parts of our human experience and cultivate appreciation and love for the places we live. Magic Beach is one of these rare buildings that cultivate appreciation and a sense of time, along with other Volano Beach historic buildings. They represent the Art Deco Mimo architecture dating to the same time as those built in the Miami Beach Art Deco district. These buildings are an important part of Florida's history, and there are very few left. Many or most have been demolished or fallen into blighted condition. However, Magic Beach has survived and is a loved landmark of Volano. As a land planner for St. Johns County, I was the project planner for the partnership between the county and the Volano Beach Community Organization for approximately 10 years, and so have a good understanding of the intent and commitments made by the community regarding the revitalization of the Volano Town Center. This project began with a major community visioning process and gained momentum by becoming a waterfront Florida and Main Street communities. Both designations are rooted in the ethos of embracing the existing assets of communities. These efforts in Volano Beach identified and included the qualities and desires of the community. The primary of these are not be a hotel motel row as allowed by the original zoning, but rather a town center, a downtown with a grocery store with a mixture of residential, commercial, public, and hotel motel uses to provide residents with a place to live, work, and play. To preserve the original assets of the town center, the enclave of old Florida Art Deco Mimo, some refer to as funky, historic structures that make Volano Beach. Recognition as a perfect location for small coastal downtown surrounded by neighborhoods with county-owned properties on both waterfronts, perfect for social and cultural gathering spaces. All of this lent itself to a new urbanist master plan. These efforts led to an award-winning master development plan which, like the waterfront's Florida community and Main Street designations, was based on new urbanist, traditional downtown principles that focused on the sense of place. Those original characteristics the Volano Beach retained from its history. A dominant part of these characteristics was the collection of mid-century structures lining the Main Street, including the iconic Magic Beach Hotel. Major projects funded by taxpayer money.
You're up. Your time is up. Okay, so that's all the comments that we are putting into the record right now. I asked Mercedes if it was appropriate for this board to be able to just ask, I guess, clarify and ask some questions. I have a couple questions. I think they're mainly procedural, but the term recognition was used, and of course, I'm not sure if recognition is the same as designation or if this board has the ability to in itself recognize a property as being historically significant, separate from the recommendation to the BCC that is the designation process, essentially the county landmarking process? Has this board ever separately acted to recognize, which wouldn't be the same process as a county landmarking? But I just am curious, since both terms are being used in the discussion today. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Under my tenure, we have not recognized something as separate from that. Of course, landmarking was separate, and we have received several applications that are usually property owner driven.
Yeah, well, that's my next sort of clarifying to understand, is that I believe, is it county policy or is it part of the ordinance that has the designations don't proceed unless the owner requests them? Is that correct?
The code says an application can be initiated by the BCC, the CRRB, or the property owner, but the application itself has to be signed by the property owner. So to move forward with the application, ultimately the property owner would have to sign it. And we have received documentation that the property owner is not interested in county landmark.
And that there's another example of that was actually the last meeting where we had a group that came in and expressed great interest in a cemetery being designated, and the owner has yet to designate it
Correct.
or agree to its designation. Let's see. Oh, I'm curious, for our historic preservation specialist, what, given that the owner is not here and doesn't appear to be supportive, what would be the impact of county landmarking of the property?
If I may speak, I can try to answer that. Because I was involved in the creation of the current land development code iteration. County landmark status, it's not going to happen without owner representation and that type of thing. So as Mercedes already pointed out, but there is a big distinction between landmark status and designating it as historically significant cultural resource, which is a different section in the Land Development Code under cultural resources protection. That designation is more of a designation in terms of how you manage the review of perhaps a demolition permit or something like that, versus a county landmark status that will actually give you tax benefits, be recognized at a federal level, give you tax benefits and additional protections. However, designating it, and it's not a designation, I don't know what you would really refer to it as. Okay, designation. In the sense of a county landmark designation where you get a seal and all of this other stuff.
So there are two tracks?
There are two different intents. Well, both of them include trying to preserve the structure, but the designation of significant cultural resource is basically a red flag that's put on that property. So if review comes around, you need to take a lot closer look. The staff internally will have to take a lot closer look at how that is going to be treated and or resolved if there's a proposed adverse impact to it.
And would that track require the owner to agree?
No, that is something that Mercedes has done in her writing, I believe, is that correct? In
Yes.
assessing the, and it's something that actually I did in the past in 2012 and 2013, right around that time. In fact, you'd earlier asked if the Cultural Resource Review Board has voted on the significance of a property, like what we're talking about here. And Chris you can recall because you, but they actually have. We've brought these. I actually believe the Magic Beach was brought for that reason in the past, but the minutes aren't either they're on tape or something like that that would record actually what happened there. And then there was, I believe, school number 6 that was also brought, or one of those properties that was also brought to get the opinion on the board whether or not it was a significant cultural resource. And there was a vote taken on those properties.
And it was this board, it's not a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners,
It's-
that track, it's
that's
this
correct.
board acting.
The code specifically says the CRRB shall review public and staff requests to designate certain cultural resources as significant cultural resources and establish such designations by majority vote of the board. That cannot be done today because it's not on the agenda. If it's something that the board wants to discuss, it would need to be on a future agenda for discussion and vote, basically. But that is what the code specifically states.
If we were to do that, how would we notify the North Coastal Design Review Board that it's under consideration? Because we'd hate for them to make a decision on something from then until.
You could technically direct staff to write a letter, but because it's a little bit hard because it's in 2 weeks. So you all would not be able to review the letter.
Or we could have a meeting.
You could probably, well, I don't think so, not by advertising purposes. I don't think we could have another meeting beforehand. The choice would be if you directed staff to write a letter with input from the chair, and you agree that that letter would be able to go without reviewing it, basically.
We have 2 questions. Your hand was up, I think, first. Go.
Just kind of a point of information, having done all this local review for a very long time. You can schedule an emergency meeting with one item and you can do the notice. It just means you'll have to do separate notice than the once a year thing that you guys do. But that can all be done very quickly and is certainly a normal activity that's done throughout the United States in situations like this, where you have timing.
I'm definitely happy to look into that if that is what the board would like. I can look into it today and, respond to you all
Okay, thank you. And
if that's.
I would just like some clarification if Mercedes can explain the review that she has been given already, and if it's not something that the board can at least provide consensus that they see that these reviews have been done in the past, because as many of these development projects happen, we can expect that staff gets pressured from their activities and their ability to further investigate these issues. And I'd just like to know if Mercedes has submitted such a review that it is a potential historic landmark, a significant cultural resource, and how it could be going forward to the Development Review Board if it includes demolition of a historic property or a significant cultural resource. It seems to me that there's been something bypassed.
Well, I'm not directly responding to your question, but I believe there was a evaluation of the architecture. I mean, based on the testimony today, there was as part of the Main Street initiative planning for Volano Road, that there was an evaluation of the architectural resources along that street. It was referred to in the testimony today. But it
But
was,
that's from the
there
public,
was,
not from the staff
yes.
and the management.
Well, there was a, there was a separate outside consulting firm that was brought in to help prepare the Main Street plan. It's essentially what the DRB is guided from, right? Okay, so we've got a couple things that we're being asked to look into. Yes?
If I make one comment or perhaps a suggestion, would it be possible, because of the review board meeting coming up in a short time, that the CRRB could direct staff to write a letter that supports staff's assessment rather than necessarily CRB voting on the designation itself? Is that a reasonable?
Let's see, right before your comment, we were talking about a letter being drafted by Mercedes
And yourself.
and,
The
right,
designate,
right,
if that
right.
was for you.
That would be issued before the DRB meeting could happen, right? In lieu of a special meeting, but we had the option, the possible option of a special meeting also. So we have those two options, I think. So that sort of ties in with what you were saying.
Okay.
So if we have two options, one of which we haven't fully investigated staff-wise, whether we can do that, is there a pleasure of the board as to how we proceed, or?
Can I just,
Yes.
I wanted to ask a follow-up
Yes.
question. Robin, you said this site was brought up in previous meetings, but the minutes are not available?
Yes, they're on record. Well, I mean, I really don't have access to documentation, but,
We've
well, I mean, I didn't, the public records request did not produce minutes associated with Magic Beach.
Or the meeting when this was brought up.
That was
being
a
said,
2011 agenda item, is what you mentioned? Is that correct?
Could have been 2011 and 2013. But a lot of those were recorded and, you know, not necessarily transcribed, perhaps summarized. But,
So that would have been after the Main Street plan was, the urban design plan for Main Street was,
yes, this was all
Yeah.
focused on Magic Beach itself with the owners.
Oh.
So that the owners could know if they could get county landmark status, because we were working with them on.
and that was about the time that the filming of that pilot was happening.
Oh,
That was
before earlier.
So that was earlier?
That had already
Okay.
happened.
So the board can make a recommendation at this point. If there's the pleasure of the board, somebody could make a motion to move in a certain direction. And the request has been made to write a letter to the design review board, which if that is the pleasure of the board, it's allowable, but they are also an advisory board to the Board of County Commissioners, just to be clear.
But they do take action, they do vote and take action, formal actions. And the other option.
Theirs will be a recommendation
Yeah,
as well.
Right, so there's the letter or a special meeting, the possibility of a special meeting to act more formally, I guess, on,
So if it goes to the other board, then they would recommend action to the BCC?
Yes, on a specific application, which is part of the Volano Beach Town Center Design Review Board. That's what they're going to be commenting on. Just the design right now of the proposed development.
And one of the mentions, I think it was in George's letter, the option to preserve the building, is that one of the options on the design committee?
Our
Is that
first
correct?
comment was that we encourage it. As part of the code, we encourage
Okay.
the repurpose of the building into the design.
Okay.
The applicant provided a justification report that it was not feasible. But a demolition permit has not been submitted at this time.
And by you're saying you, as in the county, or who?
The applicant hired a consultant who provided a justification report that the property is not eligible as a county landmark or under the National Register of Historic Places. And they
Oh.
do not, they provided a recommendation that it's not feasible to save the property.
are you talking about a recent communication? Something that,
It was a report submitted to the Volano Beach Town Center Design Review application.
oh, okay,
To
the
the
different
north
board,
coast, yes.
okay, okay.
Well, if things have to go through several boards, like, could we move forward with writing a letter that that says that we support the staff findings on this and that we also want to bring it up at another meeting. And then we could, I don't know how long it would take for them to get to the BCC, but
So incorporate both,
yeah,
both-
like
both
send the letter,
tracks.
send the letter now and then put it on our next agenda. And then put in the letter that we support what the staff says. Furthermore, we are going to take it up at our next meeting, but like would everything happen with the application? Would it all time out?
We
Or
can
would-
move forward with the direction that you guys provide.
Did you have another?
A comment on the information that was provided by that
We-
consultant.
We can't really do that because it's already public comment.
Oh,
Sorry,
only,
No point
okay.
of information?
no. Unless the chair would like to direct it, but really public comment is technically over.
So make it in form of a question,
Yeah.
not a comment, but a question.
Perhaps you may want to review that document in light of the letter from the Florida Trust, which might have conflicting testimony. Should you have an interest in that? Is that a possibility?
I think, I think it seems like what we should do is, I think the motion that was put out, I think that is probably the best path forward we can do right now, based on what we all know and what we don't know. So that motion was, again, sort of follow both tracks, communicate to DRB in the way with.
Somebody has to make the motion, and then somebody will have to
I
second.
motion
Yeah,
she
right.
gave
Yeah.
that we
Okay.
write,
Okay.
that we ask staff to write a letter to the DRB that the board supports the staff recommendation, that that it's significant, and that we hope to take that up at our next meeting, and it will go on our agenda. And I'm include in the motion that we let Mercedes write it and the chair sign, and it be, that we don't have to all review it.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, motion made and second. Any other discussion from the board on this matter?
Is there a parallel track where a demolition permit can be issued separately? Because we want to sort of put that on hold too. Or is it all tied into the design review board findings?
Demolition permits are separate.
But the DRB stop is I assume, a check before a demolition permit.
I think that's what I'm
Can
asking.
be
Is
issued.
it?
Yeah, they are not, it's not approving demolition at that stage. A demolition permit will have to come in separately or through a commercial application. It's not being proposed at this moment. So there's no,
Do we have visibility, or does the design review board have visibility to that?
they should have it eventually.
Would the demolition permit be really part of the construction permitting?
Usually, the staff will review that. And like Robin said, we have a note on it that it is considered a significant cultural resource. So we would comment based on
Okay.
our direction.
So it is already considered a significant cultural resource?
Yes, staff has
So we
stated
don't
it's
even-
significant cultural
So
resource.
you have said, okay, so staff has said that, but the board has maybe or maybe not voted.
The board has not at this time.
But it came up in a previous meeting that we don't know what was discussed, and they may or may not have voted.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the letter that was brought up was seconded, and we will move that motion forward. And I'm satisfied that the demolition permit cannot be issued without that approval.
It'll
least
come
for
under a
what-
different review.
Okay.
Okay, other
Wait,
discussion about
quick-
the motion?
Another quick question. Oh, do we want to vote on the motion first?
Well, are we, if there's more, this is opportunity to discuss the motions.
I don't want to leave that.
Yeah, we're discussing, so.
I forgot what my question was. Oh, at the design review board, they will just look at it, they're an independent group, and they will make their recommendations to the county, or how long can it stay at that design review board?
They will make a recommendation of the design of the current application.
Okay. And that's who who is our letter going to, the design review board?
That is one of the requests. It's
Okay.
up to the board to decide who to write. If you want to write a letter, and to whom to write the letter.
That's the next stop. I think it's in the second week of, yeah.
October
yeah.
13th is what one of the letters.
Okay, so this letter will actually go to them, or it will go to them and the county?
That is up to the board to decide. Currently,
Both?
the motion
I
is
would-
to send a letter to DRB supporting
Okay.
staff recommendation and to take up the project on the December agenda.
I would add the county to that.
I will
County-
amend my
Board of
motion
County Commissioners.
to thusly.
Board of County Commissioners, so it's
Yeah.
to both, it's addressed to both boards. Okay, good, yeah.
You'll not
Does-
need to vote. I
Yeah.
can call
Well,
each name or
let's,
something.
before we vote, do we also need to request the information that's being submitted to the board and from the findings of the developer, plus the report that's in contention of those findings? We'd like we'd like to be copied on that.
I'm not sure I follow exactly what you
You
said.
meant, well, it was asked that perhaps we should review both the report that was brought in by the independent engineering firm of the developer, but there was a counter,
He's a preservation consultant who was paid for the report.
okay, but there is another report that contradicts.
The Florida Trust letter contradicts much of what.
So you were referring, in one of the reports you're referring to is a recent report where the developer has determined, based on this consultant's analysis, that it's not possible to incorporate the motel into
Mr.
the new
Jonahakis
construction.
is asking for the documentation involved with the application. He is asking if that needs to be included in the motion. The documentation that we've received so far. Would you like to amend your
You
motion?
can ask for it, it doesn't have to be in the motion. It's public record.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay,
it's a application is going on.
okay.
Okay, other discussion on the motions?
Is the letter also going to say that we're having a special meeting, correct?
If that's possible, we can
Or
do
do we
that.
want a
Do you
special
want a
meeting, or
special
do we
Well,
want
I guess that's like how quickly will everything move forward? Do we
Right.
need to be more proactive, or will it take?
I would run that by Patrick
Yeah.
before you.
I just have to
Yeah,
double
we're
check.
gonna-
You have it, but I mean, you can put it in the letter.
So we will be, as part of this motion, the county will be determining whether it's possible with county attorney looking at whether a special meeting is possible. Presumably, the suggestion of a special meeting was that it would happen before the DRB? Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think the letter could say that we're going to take it up at a meeting.
Yes, because currently the motion is that
Future
we are going to
meeting.
set it on the December meeting.
So, and if we need to like schedule a special meeting in November or something.
Okay, good. Well, Mercedes is very good at memorializing things. Her meeting minutes are 5 pages long. Okay, so are we ready to vote on this? Okay, so do we go to, can you read the,
Yes. Mr. Olson?
yes.
Mr. Jonahakis?
Yes.
Miss Murray?
Yes.
Miss Newman?
Yes.
Miss Jordan?
Yes.
Miss Daring-Mock?
Yes.
So the CRRB has directed staff to ask or provide a staff letter to DRB and to the BCC supporting the staff recommendations provided, and for now to take up the item on the December 2021 meeting, but we will look into the possibility of a special meeting with our OCA.
Okay,
Unanimously.
yeah. So motion passed unanimously. Okay.
So if you are here for public comment, you may leave.
Thank you.
You're ready.
I take it your minutes are in writing now?
My minutes are in writing.
Yes, they are.
They're available to the public.
Yes.
As public record.
They will be when I have
Stake
done.
out an hour to read them.
I testified in court when minutes weren't done.
Okay,
Thank you all for coming.
thank you,
Thank
thank you. Okay, we're going on to approval of minutes. And as we move to approval of minutes, I have one observation on the minutes. In the minutes, I had mentioned that this book is authored by someone who I believe previously served on this board, and I'm not sure if he did, but his bio on the back, this is the Hastings Historic, it's mainly photographs of Hastings buildings and a description of the Hastings history. But he has, Gregory Leonard says he has served on the Historic Resources Review Committee for St. Johns County. I'm not sure if that's the same board or
That's Robin.
Oh, is that correct?
No, I said you should have asked Robin, but I remember his name.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Okay. Other comments on the minutes? Anyone do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion made, second. Do we need a roll call approval or not on that?
You could say aye if all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're, agenda. Is that another roll call? Agenda, approval of the agenda,
So moved.
moved,
Second.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so we move to the Neck Road historical marker.
So Mr. Couliet is here. Sorry, I didn't even get to introduce myself earlier. Mr. Couliet and I have been in constant contact lately. So he has proposed a historical marker be installed on Neck Road, and the Board of County Commissioners did direct staff to work on the marker. So, sorry, Mr. Couliet proposed text and the location. I did work on the text to kind of include a little bit more history. Mr. Couliet's request is to put a Mount Pleasant plantation historical marker. And we did include a little bit more of the history of the Native American population in the area, the Gullah Geechee, because we don't actually have a lot of representation of that in our historical markers at this time. And, of course, the plantation. So we did provide the proposed text to you all, and you all can make any comments that you would like. If you have any changes, if you approve it, things like that. Your recommendation today would be that you either approve the text with conditions, or recommend denial. And that recommendation will be sent to the BCC when the application goes before the BCC.
Comments on the text?
Clarification, the first side is the street side?
Usually they're sideways, so technically it'll be like not
you're saying-
against the
okay.
street. It would be
All right,
perpendicular to
okay,
the
because
street.
the diagram I saw had a kind of an elongated rectangle, and I thought that was the orientation of the sign. So you're saying it's going to be just facing the road, both sides will?
Mr. Juliet?
Well, I was asked to give a site plan, so
Uh-huh.
I forget which department that was, so I'm no engineer, but I drew a little thing on the map, but it, like Mercedes said, it's got a front and back side, so when you came in, you would probably see the Native American talking about that on the front side, and so if you were coming from the south, going back toward Wipers, then you would see the Mount Pleasant information. I would call it the sister sign is at Guana Reserve, right there at the dam, but it talks specifically about Governor Grant's indigo plantation and all that. And then it does mention Mount Pleasant on Neck Road, and I just thought the two, to me, it's, in my opinion, very important that we, it's, that people know that, so. But that's all that,
Okay.
you've got that on your computer, that's just a little square for the county to see, and I've been talking to Mr. Bridges, Ben Bridges, about, I won't even get to the engineering part of it, but
That's above me too, sorry.
Uh-huh.
That's beyond me as well.
Well, yeah, well, I told him, he called me Friday at 6 p.m. I said, wow, you're still working at 6 o'clock. And we discussed it and went back out there Saturday and remeasured it, and I can send you, if you'd like to see the measuring tape and all this, and, he wanted to see how far I measured it from the road for a safety factor. Because he's talking about a breakaway base and all this stuff, and I'm going, wow. But we discussed it, and I haven't heard back from him yet, but,
Okay.
and then the property owner called me, so I'm gonna go by there on my way home and make sure the location is where I think it is. But the wording that provided by y'all, I have no problems with it. The only issue I may have is I'll have to resubmit it to the state again for their approval. They approved what I said, but now that's been approved, and I'll have to resubmit it back to them, but I'm not worried about that.
And we're happy to help with that. We are gonna help you with that as
Oh,
well.
that would be awesome.
Yes.
But anyway, I appreciate it.
Oh,
Yes.
so
So we're working on reviewing the text.
is this on the right-of-way of Neck Road, or what
Well-
property is it sitting on?
It would be on the right of way, but right at the edge of the private property. And that's where Mr. Bridges and I had the discussion, because, I'll get around here so I'm not talking to people's backs. He was concerned, and they have county and state liability and all this about safety, road safety, and so that's where the measurements came along, but it will probably be, he said if it was 12 feet from the edge of the road, it would probably be fine.
Yeah.
And it would still be an easement, on county easement, so.
So this board does not review that section, of course, we are just looking at the text.
Okay, so is this a county-funded?
No.
What's the group funding?
It's not county funded.
I'm
Actually,
looking-
I would have to collect the money to pay for the marker.
So you are personally handling?
I'm handling
Okay.
and all I do need, and that's, once it's approved through all the back offices, is go to the county commissioners. I do have to have the county sponsor it, but that doesn't tie them to any monetary thing. But like, for instance, the state's told me it has to be sponsored. So, and they did sponsor the one down at the GTM, but it doesn't give the county any liability. It's just they have to sponsor it. And I'm the one that's going to be responsible for collecting the money to pay for the marker. The marker's about $2,300 just for the marker.
The county's involved because it's in county right-of-way.
Okay, and the only thing this board is being
Is
asked
text.
is the text.
Yes, and
what
that's
it
directed by
says.
BCC, has asked
Okay.
us to review the
Thank
text.
you.
Okay. So,
Go ahead. You're being polite, I'm just flirting out. You go.
I just had a quick question about the Gullah Geechee connection. Is there an actual connection between the slaves here and the Gullah Geechee in South Carolina?
Yeah, so the Gullah Geechee, yes. And there are groups with both the National Park Service Cultural Corridor who are involved in St. Johns County and Jacksonville and in this area, but also the Gullah Geechee Nation, which is just kind of the culture, the people themselves who have representatives in Florida. And there's, historic documentation not only of, the folks way back, the enslaved people who would have been connected with the culture, but also the, movement of people, leaving the Sea Islands and coming to Florida and
Right.
moving around and all sorts of different things. And that's part of, what the research that we're doing at the grant is to look for more connection of the Gullah Geechee culture to this area. So
So
it would be appropriate.
it would be appropriate? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, it's not just kind of,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's both groups are interested in learning more about the story
Right.
of Gullah Geechee here in Northeast Florida, so.
Okay.
Could you look at the last sentence on side 2, the very end of it, where it says continue to live to this day? It kind of looks like there are still slaves living there. If
Okay.
you- Yeah, the very end of it.
Can
How
I,
about their descendants continue to
Yeah.
live to this day?
Descendants.
I was gonna say, can I just
Yeah.
like send you some edits? Cause I had some
Yeah.
general edits.
Yeah.
It's more of, it's not like the content, it's more
Yeah.
of
That's
some
fine.
grammar and some cleaning up and clarifying and.
If you send it to me, I can do the proposed edits and send them out to everyone.
Okay. Because I think, I mean, could we move to approve it with edits?
That's approved with conditions. You could do that.
Okay. Can we comment first? I think this is wonderful. Very, yes, and I thank you. Yeah, this is great. Long
So-
overdue.
Any other comment? So I make a motion to approve with edits.
Motion, okay, motion made,
Second.
seconded by Janet. Okay. You want to read the roll?
Yes. Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Mr. Jonah Heckes?
Yes.
Miss Murray?
Yes.
Miss Newman?
Yes.
Miss Jordan?
Yes.
Miss Mock?
Yes.
Passes 5-5. 1, 2, 6, 6.
6.
Unanimously.
I had to look up, actually. Okay.
Okay,
Mr. Pouillet?
real good, yes, thanks,
you.
thank you. Okay,
Yep, good to see you. Yep.
application reviews, CRRB vacancy. We have a number of applications that have come in for that vacant seat. Has anyone had a chance to look at those?
I think Nancy should be moved to fill the empty slot. And that would keep a District 4 person represented. And then to fill that vacated, that large alternate, Robin Roberts, who is from Area 2, and we've always had a problem filling anything from Area 2,
I was
so.
going to say the same.
My suggestion would be those two, Nancy Mack, move her over to the Phil Creamer position, and Robin Roberts to fill Nancy's position.
I have a question on that. Why is the Miss Mock's expiration dates later than the vacation
I
that
noticed
she'd be
that
moving
too, but
into?
I think I was appointed to also an unexpired term,
That's
which
very
was
possible.
I might get
a
you.
longer unexpired term than, yeah.
I would assume you wanted a longer
Well, I
spot?
Well-
I don't know why that brings a lot of that up when we have it. I don't see us, I'll put it this way, we have probably 17 items tomorrow. And this could be one of them. So to sit there and say, okay, we're gonna put somebody in a seat for 3 months and turn around in 3 months, redo it, we've always just added it on for a full another term. That way, I've brought that up many times. Yeah, why are we gonna come back in 3 months and try to reappoint the same person? Let's go ahead and go for a year and 3 months and be done.
So the move doesn't have to
Or
happen.
two.
We just need to fill the position is what we're saying, right?
Well, yeah, because she's in an alternate position,
Yeah,
so
Yeah,
that would
if
put
we're
her
gonna go
officially
ahead
on
and
the
fill it
board.
for the remainder, or fill it, you know, for a remainder plus, it just depends on what it is.
Yes, so this position is technically Ms. Creamer's unanticipated vacancy. So that is the only thing you're looking at right now. The alternate position, if Ms. Daring Mock were to be placed in Ms. Creamer's position, would then have to be re-advertised,
Oh.
Oh, oh,
Technically.
technically.
oh.
Whatever, we can't really wait.
So we,
That's why I asked that too. So
So,
I think we
Nick,
just need to
we're-
fill the vacant position with the District 2 person, which is the way I had looked at it, because there's representation of everybody else, every other district except for 2, so.
somebody would need to make a motion.
I'll make a
and
motion
say- Your
to-
motion is?
to move
Robin
Robin,
Robbins.
Robbins into the vacant position made available by resignation of Tonya Creamer.
Is there a second?
Motion made in second.
Okay, read off the roll.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Mr. Jonah Heckes?
Yes.
Ms. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Newman?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yeah.
Ms. Mock?
Yes.
So Ms. Robbins will be recommended to the vacant position.
Okay, so we've handled that item. We're now at board member reports. Is that generally anything that anyone has to bring forward? So, board member reports, any board member wanting to? Okay.
Okay.
So, looks like we're gonna make it out of here by 5. So if there's,
Wasn't looking good.
oh, staff report. Is there a staff report that's in the agenda right now?
Technically, I know you had requested an update on the Hastings Historic Property Survey, and we have it on our website now, all completed. That grant is complete. We're now moving on to the next 2 grants, which are the Historic Property Survey of A1A, and the request for proposals is supposed to go out within the next month. So
And that includes Volano Road,
it
right?
does include Volano Road.
So,
So maybe they'll go quickly.
yeah.
But the RFP is going to go out next month, hopefully October, actually, it's already October. So hopefully it's going out this month. We get the consultants. November, we're supposed to review the consultants that submitted applications and choose one. Last year, this is about the same timeline we had, and we forwarded, or basically went into contract with the company in December, and by January, it was executed through the state, and they started in February.
Yeah. And back to Hastings, some good news. One of the more substantial historic buildings along Hastings North Main Street is being, a portion of it is being renovated as a wedding event location. There's a bunch of renovation work going on in there now, which helps the, what?
No permit? Is that the,
Oh, I'm assuming they have a permit. Yeah, this is.
that's what she went,
Oh,
that's the only thing.
I have been on maternity leave.
oh, okay, so anyway, I
didn't
mean,
contact her about it.
and I think the county
like
has,
for like.
and maybe you know about this, the county has considered, or there's been some discussion in the county about a new community center in Hastings along Main Street. So that's an opportunity to possibly make sure that there's some design guidelines that would fit that in and reinforce that activity on Main Street in Hastings, sort of community identification. So,
And you had asked me about the Hastings High School. We have no update at this time.
okay,
Sorry.
okay. Did that landmarking has not been acted on then?
No.
Okay, okay. So no other business, we're adjourned.